All right. Once again, everybody, good afternoon, and thank you again for dialing into our well-informed living with a chronic condition. All lines will remain muted for the remainder of the presentation. However, we will have a Q&A portion of the presentation at the end. We would encourage you to type your questions in for our presenter. Did you know that more than 70% of adults are living with at least one chronic health condition? While a healthy diet is important, regular physical activity is one of the most effective ways to help prevent, delay, or manage many chronic conditions. As you recognize Physical Fitness Month this July, it's a perfect opportunity to explore how exercise and lifestyle changes can improve not only our physical health, but our overall quality of life. Just 30 minutes of moderate to vigorous physical activity each day can have a significant impact on both your body and your mind. Joining us today to discuss practical strategies for living well with a chronic condition is Dr. Felix Padrón. Please join me in welcoming Dr. Padrón, and I'll kick it over to you.
Thank you, Dakota, and welcome everybody. Truer words were never spoken. What Dakota just mentioned is absolutely correct. We really can do things for our future selves today that our future selves will be very grateful for. So I'm really happy that you're here. I'm really grateful that you're investing in you, and I'm really honored that I'm the person that's sharing this information with you. So today we're going to discuss the impact of living with a chronic condition on individuals and our family members as well, and friends, of course. We're going to understand that role that resilience plays in managing our chronic condition and our chronic illness. We're going to review some strategies for navigating the inherent challenges that come with that and also maximizing the quality of our life. We're going to live with ourselves for the rest of our lives, right? And be in our own company, making that as enjoyable and as maximized as possible. We're going to explore some ideas related to communicating limits and needs with others so that they understand um, your situation and you can understand theirs, of course. And we're going to finish today's presentation with a review of your employee assistance program, which is an excellent resource for support, for ongoing resources. And I'll explain that to you when we get to that PowerPoint slide. And then after that, I'll open it for questions, of course, and comments, whatever you'd like to do after the fact. So let's jump right into it. And just, this is a difficult conversation and something that we don't want to think about, but it kind of sometimes creeps into our lives unexpectedly. Sometimes we might have a forewarning, if you will. We all want to be healthy. We all want to be complete and whole, and every spoke in the wheel, if you will, or every aspect of wholeness, the holistic approach to the physical, the mental, the emotional, the spiritual, all those things we want to have at full peak, and certainly we want to interact with everybody. Um, who is well and wish wellness on everybody in our lives. But sometimes that's not possible. We know that. And that sometimes comes associated with grieving, with anger and frustration, sometimes not intentionally, but we get mad at people when they're not healthy because we want them to be healthy. It's a passionate, loving thing to feel, which of course isn't helpful to remedy the situation or the relationship with this new knowledge. Yeah, about 60, 70% of us live with a chronic illness, chronic condition. 40% of us, almost 45% of us really, live with two or more of them. And sometimes one promulgates the other. We might have a predisposition for these things because of our family lineage, and sometimes it skips several generations and then surfaces. The unfortunate right key is available and presents itself to kind of unlock that particular chronic condition. Eh, When we are better educated, and by that I mean more aware of a condition and what it entails and what results and what we feel, not just from a physical standpoint, but from the emotional standpoint as well. Even just getting the news for the first time, what we could expect to feel, and the shock and the denial and the anger that sometimes comes. And in all fairness, selecting and having a very healthy lifestyle is something that I would wish on anyone, right? But sometimes even with having a healthy, wonderful lifestyle and way of viewing your nutrition, your self-care, sometimes a chronic condition still shows up because of a genetic predisposition. It's not a lack of your efforts. Your efforts have been exceptional. It's just a condition of your humanness. So it's not a weakness, it's just a condition of us being human. And these are some things here that you see, of course, in the PowerPoint slide that we could all maybe have unfortunate um, diagnoses of, but it's definitely something that sometimes also is more likely as we progress in age. And Dakota was very clear with me to let me know that all the employees there, that the oldest person is roughly about 35. So, and while you're very young still, things happen, right? And certainly it's important to keep a lookout. I would, and I'm going to be talking about this a little bit later, but let me just say it here again. I would always very respectfully and humbly encourage you, check in with your medical team, medical professionals that you go to. Make sure that you get your yearly checkups. If you have a predisposition to perhaps have a condition, then please get it more regularly just to be on the safer side. I always want you to get good news and say, oh, this was such a waste of time. That would be my optimum wish for you. A waste of time because that means that every time you go, it's a great, clean, good bill of health. Um, but also having information on time helps remedy some of the and helps eliminate some of the unfortunate symptomology that happens with the chronicity and the acuteness of certain things. When a diagnosis is made, and unfortunately we get the news, it's not just us that get affected. So if we're the recipient of that news, it affects everyone who loves us and cares for us and we're connected to. And I don't wish this on anybody, but of course, but if someone in your family was diagnosed with an illness, everyone in your family will have that illness in terms of being connected to the person, wishing them well, being impacted by the news. So it's not just a one person thing. Every decision we make, primarily most decisions we make, will affect someone that we care about and love, right? Not to mention us, right? So we will constantly be in a relationship with ourselves. We will never be alone because we're always in our own company. So what we choose to do, what we choose to think, our perspective is important, incredibly important for many different things, certainly for the topic of today's webinar. But please do not discount the impact of the news of a medical situation, a chronic condition that's diagnosed on everybody in your circles. Even coworkers. I call coworkers work family members because, quite frankly, we spend sometimes a lot more time with our coworkers in our waking hours than we do with our own family and friends. But certainly, um, we get impacted. We develop relationships with people. We develop, years long interactions with people, and anything that affects them could also affect us. If you hear that someone in your circle, in your work circle, your work family member, is diagnosed with something or has a condition which seems to make it difficult for them some days to function well, of course you're going to compassionately connect and be affected by that. So some of the and this is not an extensive list, but some of the challenges that sometimes come from chronic conditions, of course, is what we would expect would be the medical ones, the physical. These are typically certain symptoms that might surface, primarily pain. And I heard something from someone uh, who really made an impact on how I viewed this. And that person said that, when you're in pain, you have one dream, right? To be pain free. When you have no pain, you have 1,000 dreams. And that is so true. When we get diagnosed or have a chronic condition, and if the symptomology is some level of discomfort and hopefully not pain, but if it's pain, we really just have that constant on our mind not to feel that discomfort. Sometimes because of the in, attempts to avoid pain, sometimes we change how we ambulate, how we walk, how we move. We might limit movement. We might limit, and by that, we limit social things. Sometimes a change in our appearance results, not just from the pain component, just from the condition itself. It might change our skin appearance. It might change the grimacing in our face, depending on what's going on, our mobilities, our body structure. Certain medications we'll have that are necessary to ameliorate and to stabilize and hopefully hold at bay or maybe work on reducing the chronic condition. Sometimes the medications have side effects. They're great for what their intended purpose is, which is, to remove the symptoms of, or hopefully eradicate the condition if that's possible, or at least make a person comfortable. But of course, sometimes there's side effects. And in our attempts to live a quote unquote normal life, and by normality, that's certainly a very subjective term, but I know people who unfortunately have several chronic conditions, and I got to tell you, they live life more fully than people with no chronic condition. So it does change our perspective, and that's an important thing for us to consider. Um, the mobility issues that we sometimes have uh, creates a level of exhaustion. Sometimes it's just difficult to quite literally breathe throughout the day. For some people, that's a condition has affected that component. Any mobility, any movement might be quite draining for a person. So and we're mentioning these things not to make us sad, of course, but although there's that level of grief that I mentioned before, but to understand each other and to understand it's not a person's vulnerability or weakness that's making them feel these things. It's a condition of the condition, right? It's part of that humanness. Then we have the practical components that happens and the challenges that occur when there's a chronic condition. Sometimes a person's ability to work, their functionality at work might be impacted. And while their intent is to do a great job, and I'm sure that they do, there might be limitations to the amount of productivity that can happen, or even sometimes showing up because of the condition. Because of the limits, there's typically always some sort of financial connection to a chronic condition, whether it means, clearly more office visits with physicians or doctors or medical teams, which might mean more copay, more deductibles. It might mean treatment that may not be covered with insurance, and therefore there's a financial strain. But sometimes the ability to make more money or a second job, for example, if it's required, it might be limited because of the condition. And then there's all the unfortunate, not practical things about a chronic condition, which is all the red tape that's required in calling insurances, getting things scheduled. Doctor's offices sometimes reschedule, even though you've been waiting for the appointment. A thousand different things that I am sure if you're, and I'm hoping that that's not the case, but if you're that person who, or are connected to a person who has a chronic condition, you understand the red tape is horrible and it's frustrating and it's exhausting just to get through the red tape, just to get the treatment you deserve and require. And that kind of is tied into care coordination. Sometimes there's maybe three different medical teams or medical offices working on something, but there doesn't seem to be coordination. It shouldn't have to fall on the person with the condition. But sometimes that's exactly what happens, or to a person closely related to the person with the condition. People might be on this webinar call today who actually are caring for someone who has a chronic condition. And if that's the case, I am very grateful for your amazing compassionate efforts to help someone. And that person might be yourself. So I'm grateful that you're here to learn and hopefully find different ways to move forward, right? The social component gets affected for several reasons. Sometimes it's just the roles change. So if you've been a breadwinner, if you've been someone who has always been the go-to person, the problem solver, that role might change, might be modified because of what's happening. Some people, and this is a frustrating part sometimes, that well-intentioned people, our family and friends, try to overcompensate and try to comfort us, and sometimes we just want to be treated like a regular human being, because you still are a regular human being who happens to have a chronic condition. But well-intended family members and friends sometimes kind of change how they react to us, and it's noticeable. And what we want is to be treated, as we were before, because we still are that person. Sometimes our friendships are strained. Sometimes they want to do things, but they keep getting, I can't, or I don't have the energy today, or can we please postpone? And you're right to, and it's valid for you to feel and want to do that. friendships sometimes are tested here because they don't know what to do. They want to help out, and I think it falls on us if we're the ones with a chronic condition to help educate our family and friends on what we need. And it is easy to assume that they would know, but they're not living or they're not experiencing it like you are. Educate them respectfully, of course, but let them know what you need. Let them know what is helpful. Let them know that sometimes you won't be able to hang out, and it's not because you don't want to and you wish to, because of course you do, because you're exhausted, because you're uncomfortable, because maybe you don't want to bring down the mood if everyone is trying to modify because they want you comfortable. And you would know what I mean if you have a chronic condition. The workplace relationships may be altered a little bit because maybe your particular function has to be modified to help you deal with a good quality of a working, life, if you will, to make sure that you can do things according to your level, to your abilities. Lifestyle limitations also creates a sense of isolation for us because we may not be as active as we used to be, or people have known us to be. And then sometimes there's the when we meet with someone that we haven't seen for a while and they see the change or the difference, they might try to be polite and not say anything, but sometimes they might come right out and ask you, what's going on? You seem so different. And then you have to kind of explain. And I don't know about you, but it sometimes gets exhausting to have to explain the same thing over and over and over again. Because what you would want to do, what we want as humans to do, is move forward and continue to live our life normally. To be reminded by having to recount the story is sometimes challenging itself. This is certainly one of those things that sometimes it's what encourages us, unfortunately, to isolate to avoid those moments. Um, and it's difficult, and I understand. But I'm going to respectfully and humbly encourage you, still connect, still be social, still reach out. Sometimes if it just means to be social, to sit in a bookstore or a library and just flip through a magazine or a book, and like, I understand that there might be some discomfort, but please don't stop feeding that necessary part of our humanness, which is social contact. And then we get to what's unavoidable. It's the emotional part, the interpretation of what's happening, the perspectives that we take on or consider, and there is a sense of loss. There's a loss of what we used to be like. There's a loss of our abilities to connect, like socially, like we were just talking about. There's an ability. There's a sense of loss because of our not recognizing ourselves. We still feel the same on the inside, but the chronic condition limits our abilities to be who we are, to be our authentic self, if you will. And of course, that brings on normal grief responses. And grief also involves anger and frustration. You've done the right things. Maybe you've been one of those people who have been like a health proponent type of person for all their lives, and still the condition is here. We tap into the most dreaded anxiety for a human being, which is a fear of death. And even if you've come to terms with and have fully accepted that one day that'll happen, long, 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 long time from now, it's something. Hold on a second. My videos are animated somewhere. Okay, there we go. All right. So, if someone has also access to can you please not move them until I finish so that we can get through? Thank you. Some of them may just have been accidental. But that fear of death really sometimes becomes the overwhelming focal point of our life. And I would, to the best of my ability, from my uh, perspective at this moment, is to encourage you, please, to focus on what you want, which is living, which is life. And to do that, we sometimes need to focus on what we're enjoying about life, what is valuable, what is productive. And every human being on this planet is born to be anxious. That's just part of our human condition to keep us safe from things. But when something happens like a chronic condition, it taps into that anxiety because we want it to be different. We want it to be better, and sometimes we don't have the ability to make it happen. So let me share something about you that even though this is the first time I'm meeting you today, perhaps I have already picked up something about you that maybe you don't know. You have absolutely survived everything you've ever been through. Otherwise, you wouldn't be here right now. Despite maybe a diagnosis of a chronic condition or going through a chronic condition, despite when maybe no one was there for you before as you were going through things, you've still made it. You still survived that. Even when you have lost faith in the ability to get past something, you're still here. The Japanese have a wonderful saying, and you see it here on the PowerPoint slide: fall 7 times, stand up 8. You have always stood up. You have always kept going. The issue for us humans is that sometimes we don't take inventory of our victories. We're just focused on the next problem to solve or the next condition that concerns us, and hardly ever really take inventory of all that we've successfully accomplished. I work with firefighters a lot, first responders. My training is besides mental health, and I have a doctorate in psychology, but I do a lot of work with trauma, and I'm a National Guard trained crisis responder. So, but I have found such a wonderful perspective on resilience with firefighters and police officers. They say that they grow through what they go through. They grow through what they go through. So they don't have post-traumatic stress. They say they get post-traumatic growth. So I would encourage you to consider that perspective. Keep going. Keep going through, do the treatments, do the medication stuff, do whatever it is that your medical team has encouraged you to do and has told you is helpful. Keep doing, right? Find your footing too, and I think what helps us with resilience and what helps us move forward is to take again inventory of what is working and what is still the same and what is still um, a vital part of your existence. Find things that you can be grateful for. This helps shift your perspective. This helps shift how you view things. And our view of things really does impact literally our outcomes of things. So keep your hopes up. And I've heard people say sometimes, people, well-intentioned people, but they say, "Oh, don't get your hopes up." And I say to myself, well, what the hell good are low hopes? I mean, keep your hopes up. Keep looking. Keep looking for the positives, what you can learn from stuff. There's an old movie, and old I mean about 20 years ago, I guess. Um you youngsters who are 35 or younger, of course, all of you don't know, may not know it, but Gladiator, the first Gladiator movie with Russell Crowe and stuff. There was an actor playing the role of Marcus Aurelius, a Roman Caesar, which has really an extraordinary story. He was adopted and became Caesar. Very good story. He also was a philosopher. So I love his writings because one of his quotes is really amazing for me, and it's helped me quite a bit. That quote is, "The obstacle in the way is the way." So sometimes we avoid things and don't want to deal with stuff and just are sick and tired of it. But he suggests that go through it. The best way to get past something is to go through it. And many people here listening today are going through it. Right. But know that that's going to help you go to the next level, become wiser, our wisdom, our expertise, we weren't born with. We went through many obstacles to get to this level of humanness, of wisdom, if you will. So check into and tap into all that enormous amount of wisdom that you have acquired. And when you don't think it's enough, or when you'd like additional wisdom, reach out and read like meditations from Marcus Aurelius, or read other things which are encouraging, which help you change perspective. That's important. Um, please don't just rely on your thoughts. While you're very intelligent and wonderful, sometimes when we just depend on our own thoughts, we really significantly limit our access to other points of view. I'm not saying your thoughts aren't great. I'm sure they're great. But please understand that it could significantly, if you're just depending on you, it significantly limits your ability to see things differently. And may you always find different perspectives. That helps us. I want you to also please consider understanding that your human condition, because you're alive, like I do, and everybody else has, we're going to have emotions. But emotions sometimes, what it does to us is when they're in great amounts, it limits our ability to access our judgment centers, our logic centers in the brain. Uh, Primarily the prefrontal cortex, right behind our forehead, right? That's a prefrontal cortex area. When we get very emotional, whether it's anger, frustration, irritability, fear, even love, even positive ones, we don't really have full access to our logic centers. So sometimes reactions are impulsive, things are done or choices are made, which may not be which clearly most often are not what we would make when we're thinking logically, right? And our emotional triggers are significant. The fact that we can't control things like we used to or do things like we used to. And a chronic condition is also aging, right? We're all, if we're fortunate, gonna get to a ripe old age, and I wish that on everybody in a very healthy way, a pain-free way, right? And having our faculties, all those things. But aging is also a chronic condition. And think about the elderly when sometimes they just can't ambulate like they used to, when they can't maybe even drive sometimes. And I know sometimes we have to make those choices for our loved ones who are older, but it's a difficult moment. And those things, of course, are going to trigger emotions. Your feelings, your emotions, your reactions are valid. They're appropriate. They may not be convenient for people around you, but they're exactly what you need to feel and what your brain is perceiving at that moment. Allow them to exist, but please don't judge them. And also don't stay stuck there. It doesn't rain forever unless we keep walking under that rain cloud. So what I'm asking you to consider doing is to be mindful, to understand that it's an appropriate feeling. It's exactly what you need to be feeling based on what's happening, but also understand that that won't always be there. It doesn't rain forever. And if it's difficult to get past the situation, what you're feeling, please reach out and talk. This is a great moment to get another point of view, another perspective. Sometimes from a counselor, it could be a friend, it could be a family member. Sometimes just talking to a stranger in a grocery line is helpful. There's helpful things all around you. We just have to be willing to find it and to impact us, right? um, Sometimes when things happen, it's such a natural response to say, "Why me? I've been a good person. I've always done for others. Why me?" I would suggest to change the "why me" to "show me." Show me why this is in my life at the moment. Let's see. What, and by let's see, my preference, although this slide is proprietary property of Cigna, I am going to change the let's see to show me, right? Because show me how strong I can be. Show me how I could get past this. Remember, the obstacle in the way is the way. To get past something, you have to go through it. So, release yourself from feeling guilty from or blaming yourself. If I had only done things different when I was younger, all the things that we sometimes get stuck on. And in reference to getting stuck, there's a really good little book called How to Be Happy, Damn It. And I got to be honest with you, I picked up the book when I saw the title because of the title. But it was a great discovery for me, and it's been such a and it's going to sound dramatic, but it's been such a life-changing book because it has changed my perspective on a lot of different things. It's a 44 life lessons. It's written by a lady named Karen Salmonson. Her last name is so hard to spell that her website is not salmon like the fish, not salmon.com. Because I mean, I still can't spell her last name. That's how complicated it is. But it's a really good little book. It's a short read. I would even encourage you, and she's gonna hate if she ever hears me saying this, but don't buy it. Go to the bookstore. Go to Barnes and Nobles. Go to the library. And if for those of you younger than 30, a library is a place where you can actually borrow books. They still exist in most counties and cities. So it's a great place to visit if you haven't seen one yet. But go to this place, go to either bookstore or library, read it. It's about an hour, maybe 2 hours, but it's such a life-changing because of her perspectives. She's funny, she's psychological, intellectual, she's sarcastic. So it's a really interesting read. One of the chapters talks about one of the life lessons talks about elephants in circuses, born in circuses in captivity. And she asks the question, or she shares about what's the first trick they teach a baby elephant born in captivity. And one would think, balancing a ball on their trunk, standing on their hind legs. But the fact is that the first trick to teach a baby elephant in captivity is how not to escape. So they'll tie its hind legs, sadly, to a tree trunk or the cage where the little elephant is. And the elephant, of course, will try to move forward, but find that it can't. So if you ever remember circuses, or if you ever see a movie from the circus, an older movie with referencing a circus, you'll notice that the elephants will have a rope tied to a hind leg, not tied to anything, but it's tied onto them, like a new, a little rope is tied around their back leg and to nothing. But the elephant feels a rope and has been trained to think, oh, okay, I can't move, right? So I'm stuck here. And that's the only way that trainers could actually work with an elephant to teach it new things. Because if the elephant knows that it could keep walking, who's to stop an elephant from walking, right? We're kind of like that. We're tied to things that have happened in our past, things that we've have come in contact with, and we sometimes have an inability to move forward because we think, well, I got this rope tied because of this and this and this. So I would humbly ask you, move forward. Even if you think you can't, move forward to find that and hopefully discover that you've always been able to. Self-pity doesn't help us. Blaming others, ourselves, doesn't take away the situation that's happening at the moment. And this helps us kind of to take ownership. And when we have ownership, when we have responsibility to make something different, we can. We can anticipate, and when we talk to others, that's why the social component is so important. When we talk to others, maybe going through the same things that we're going through, it helps us also anticipate things. It helps us because we're learning and we're talking to people to maybe avoid what someone else had to go through because they didn't know any better. And the wisdom that you're collecting right now is going to help someone else in the future. And like I said at the beginning, please do something nice for you today that your future you will be grateful for. And it's important. I love this quote here on the PowerPoint slide. I don't like it. I don't want it, but I can handle it. And that's certainly true. Remember, the obstacle in the way is the way. So move forward. It's important to connect with your medical team. And I know it's uncomfortable for us to want to, well, no one wants to be connected to a medical team, but um to go to appointments and make appointments. And I know it's uncomfortable. And I recognize it's uncomfortable. Please, I humbly and respectfully encourage you, make the appointments. If you don't feel connected to a physician somehow, if you just don't feel there's a good connect, then find another one. Ask questions, get second opinions, and build a team that you can trust. Build a team that you know that you can reach out to, and it might take a day or two or some time to, but whether it's uh, a virtual thing or a virtual connection, whatever it might be, just build build people that you can connect with to help you that would help you through this process. And pull your own weight, which means respectfully, do what is recommended. Take the medications, do the exercises, do whatever it is that this medical team has, you know, wisely and expertly advise you to do. You have to do your part. Listen, as much as I want you to be okay, I can't make you okay. I can't drink water to quench your thirst. You're gonna have to drink your own water. I mean, even the people that love you the most can't drink water to quench your thirst. So you have to do what is required. You don't have to like it though, but you have to do what's required. So, and if you're feeling something, if something doesn't feel right, if a new medication is creating some sort of side effect, please tell your team. They don't know that you're feeling these things. Every body, every human body, every individual person may respond biologically different to treatment. But please let them know. Don't assume it's just part of it. Let them know what you're feeling. And and please engage, interact, leave messages or however your physician or medical team will like you to communicate, keep them to speed with what's happening. And that's important. These moments are very taxing on us. They're very emotional. They're very difficult. They're very stressful. Let me humbly encourage you to take a friend, a family member, someone to your appointments who can hear the message and capture it. Maybe you take notes. And if you can't find somebody or just choose not to do that for whatever your reasons are, I respect that. Take a notebook before you get to the doctor's office or the appointment that you're going to. um, Ask, write down questions that so that you don't forget it when you're there. Because sometimes they have limited amount of time to be able to be with you. But if you have the questions, they'll respond to them, right? Because you have them there. Don't depend on that moment to then come up with the questions, right? Because it may not happen. Please remember your support systems, your anchors, the people who have been there for you. Maybe people that you would never have assumed to have been there for you are the ones that are there for you. And those that you counted on, you thought for sure they're going to be, they may not be. And it's not to mean, doesn't mean that one is bad or better than the other. It just means that people handle news like this or situations like this differently. But let those people who are your tribe, if you will, your really your supporters, let them in. Let them help you. Some may not be able to, some may kind of not be so close to you anymore, not because they don't love you and care about you, that sure they're still to be okay. It might be too painful for them. It might be tapping into something else that they had to go through in a similar situation, and they don't want to see you in the condition that you might be in, or it just might be difficult for them. It doesn't mean they're bad. Understand that some might need to do that. uh, it is certainly a great idea to connect with support groups with people who are going through the exact same things. Support groups can be discovered through your medical team, who, of course, are dealing with that same type of situation with other people. It can be certainly a resource that your employee assistance program can help you discover and find. And we're going to talk about it in just a moment. But please don't overlook the professional support that the EAP can provide you. It's important to know what you want, what you need, and people can't read your mind. Um, Develop some sort of, I don't know if a script is the best word, but some sort of statement or saying about what you want other people to what you want other people to know about your condition, to know about what you're going through. You don't have to disclose everything. This is not a Dr. Phil moment where you have to tell everybody everything, but please let them know what you need. They don't know what you need. You might just need silence and just to be in your own company sometimes. Sometimes, some other times you might need social. What can they do to be helpful? And maybe and maybe the most helpful thing you could ask them to do is to ask them to not to keep asking you what you need, right? Um, Maybe develop some sort of WhatsApp chat about what you might need and what you might feel what you feel might be helpful at the moment, and let them know what's not helpful. Let them know that asking you maybe 10 times a day how you're doing is not helpful, or asking you to review what led to this chronic condition may not be helpful. Let them know, right? And this last one here is a big ask. Let them know what worries you. Let them know what scares you. Because when those subject matters come up, maybe accidentally, they're going to be aware then why you might be pulling back or why you might respond a particular way because of what it evokes, right? Because of what it triggers. They don't know. They don't know what you're thinking. So it's important for you to let them know. Um, if someone that you love, someone in your family, a friend, a coworker, uh, comes out with the news of what's going in, that there's a chronic condition that they've been diagnosed with, please be respectful. I know you want to know more and you want to be helpful because you're curious. You want to know how you can help them. If you want to ask a person questions who's just shared something big like this, ask them before you ask questions and say, would you feel comfortable if I asked you some questions about this, or would you prefer not to do that right now? And then let them guide you. Let them tell you, right? Let them know that you're concerned for them, that you're going to keep them in your thoughts and prayers, and you want to know how best to support them. But let them drive, if you will. Let them guide you through that. Don't push. Um, Let them know, hey, here's my number. I'm available whenever you need me. Maybe every 2 or 3 days. Hey, I'm just thinking about you. Hope you're okay. Can we meet up for coffee? Whatever it might be. But just ask them they're going to be the best person to tell you. When they're sharing the information, please don't just, I know in your heart, in your compassionate heart, you want to solve and fix and help and make them comfortable and all the things that you want. But sometimes what a person who's going through something really needs most of all is for someone to listen, not to interrupt them, just to listen, just to let them vent, right? And that sometimes is so much more important than actually a solution. Of course, a solution is ideal. What I'm saying is, um, sometimes the person who's going through something winds up having to comfort the person they just told because they're freaking out. And the person with the condition is the one who should be the one being comforted. Does that make sense? Because it sometimes happens. Sometimes I don't share what I'm going through or what I'm feeling with my family and friends because then I'm going to wind up having to comfort them, right? So I try to get through it. I try to, there's specific people in my support system where I can talk freely to, and they're wonderful listeners. And sometimes they just know I just want to vent, and they're good about that. And uh, ask them before you give advice. Ask them, may I give you my advice, or may I give you my humble suggestion? And if they say yes, then great, you're good to give the suggestion. If they say no, no, I got it, then you have to patiently, unfortunately, wait for them to figure it out. To do what they want, and you can lead the horse to water, but you can't make them drink, right? But you can make them thirsty. So say, hey, listen, if you're ever interested in it, I'll keep the information for you. Um, if you're the person going through, even if you're not, anybody listening to this webinar, remember your basics and all of our basics. Eat good food. Sleep is not optional. Please work on your sleep hygiene. We all need at least 7 to 8 hours, and certain conditions might require a little bit more. During sleep, we recharge. It's like our cell phones are. We have more interest in recharging our cell phones and iPads or whatever we have than ourselves. Sleep is not optional. Sleep is a necessity, and it's also important regardless of the discomfort. And that part, I wish you didn't have if that's what you have as a part of your condition. But physical activity is important. It doesn't have to be fast, but movement is important. Movement helps us stay stronger, helps us avoid more discomfort, right? Make sure you manage medications correctly, write things down, make visual things for you that are helpful. I suggest, and this is not in today's training, but I will suggest to you, please keep the poison control number, the 1-800 number, close or wherever you have your medications for this reason. Sometimes we forget and we might accidentally double up on a medication. Before you call the doctor, call the poison control because they have absolutely everything that could potentially be combined together. And they'll tell you, listen, don't worry, just skip tomorrow's, or yes, please call your doctor, or, so they'll advise you. Your pharmacist is also a great person, he or she to contact, but make your future you more comfortable and more knowledgeable by doing something for that person today, for your future you today. Make things comfortable and easy for you. Keep things in the same space. Keep a folder with all the medications you're taking, all the situations. So if you have to go to a doctor, you can find everything easily, right? Help yourself through this process too with either mindfulness exercises, deep breathing, and there's a whole bunch of YouTube stuff on that. Keep music in the background, which is soothing and calming. I mean, listen to what you love, of course, but help your system, help your body, help your mind by even combining. For example, I to sleep better, I use YouTube, like deep sleep music, which fades to black, so the screen there's no blue lights coming at me, and I put the volume at a level where I have to struggle a little bit to hear it, and it lulls me to sleep all night long. So find your system, find your ways to help you move forward. Um, Understand your pain if that's what the condition you feel, part of your symptoms. Please explore treatment options with your medical team and manage things from a holistic standpoint, not just medication, but also physical activity, also breathing exercises, also meditation stuff. And it really helps us shift our perspective from just focusing on pain. I want you to be pain free. That's a goal that I wish for you, aspire for you. We'll send you good energy for, and it really does help us. Remember, remember your strength. Remember your resilience. Remember that you've survived everything you've ever been through. Visualize and focus on a better future, a brighter future. Don't please expect things to get worse and make, please keep your hopes high. Remember things that you're grateful for. That helps us stay strong. Watch funny videos. Please don't watch the news, right? Um, please stay focused on something enjoyable and do things that help you recharge. Sometimes just sitting still, sometimes watching birds in the backyard. I mean, whatever it is, you have to do these things. You can get support, but no one can do these things for you. Sometimes courage is a quiet voice at the end of the day saying, I'll try again tomorrow. I'll keep going, right? I'll move forward. I will grow through what I'm going through. And that's important. To help you along the way, you have 6 free counseling sessions per year per issue. And this is your number, 888-371-1125. If you will humbly accept my recommendation here, please take a picture of this PowerPoint page. Take a picture. You can have that number with you or jot it down or program it into your phone. But this number is important, not just for you. 888-371-1125. You get 6 free counseling sessions per year per issue. If in January, for example, you have holiday stress left over, 6 free counseling sessions for that. If in April you have workplace stress, 6 free counseling sessions for that. If in May you get a diagnosis which is uncomfortable or your condition, something happens with your condition that is concerning, 6 additional sessions for that. Each of these sessions are about $150 to $200 an hour, but they're absolutely free. There's no copay, no deductible. Even if your medical insurance is covered by your spouse's or your parents' job somewhere else, you still have full access to this EAP benefit. And so does everyone else in your household. Everyone else. Even if they're roommates, they have access. And that's important for many different reasons, of course, because we all go through different things, through breakups, through financial strains, whatever it is. But certainly, if there's a chronic condition that someone in the family is going through, everyone's going through it. So maybe um, your spouse, your kids, your parents, if they live with you, they might want to talk to someone to help them understand and help them deal with the diagnosis, with the condition. Everything you talk about is confidential. Everything your family or your roommates talk about is confidential. Nothing goes back to work, period. You can also contact this number, 888-371-1125, to speak with someone, a licensed clinician on the phone unlimitedly, right? You could call it 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Maybe you just want a 15-minute phone call with a licensed clinician to process something, an argument, um, something you're thinking about, or for half an hour, for 45 minutes. And all these unlimited telephone consultations do not count against your 6 free counseling sessions. Those are still safeguarded. You also have what's called like work life support. I call it like the free personal concierge services, right? Let's say you want information on let's say you have an elder relative, right, that you're concerned about, that you don't want he or she to have to cook meals for themselves. So you want like a meal on wheels type of a service, like a meal preparatory service where they just kind of get the meals delivered and it's easier for them. Maybe you want this for you. Give us a call, tell us what you need, and call us at 888-371-1125, and we will find you person in that area, whether several states over, we'll give you 3 different referrals actually for that particular service in that area where we will have already identified the correct number for the service or how to contact them, the person to speak to, the fact that they're taking new clients. We do all that homework for you, and of course, then you select and pay for whatever you want, right? But we'll do that homework, if you will. If you have issues in the house, maybe you need some sort of adaptations made to make your life or someone else's life more comfortable, give us a call. We'll find you resources for that. If you need uh, help with a plumber or an electrician and the need is urgent, you determine the urgency. We don't. You determine, oh, this is urgent, need it quickly. Then we'll call you back within 6 hours. So the other regular information will call you back within 12 hours. For urgent stuff, we'll call you back within 6 hours and we'll find you those people that you might need for home services within 6 hours. You also get 30 minutes of free financial advice every year and 30 minutes of free legal advice every year. This is for you and everyone in your household. If you want to continue working with that financial person or the attorney, you can, but past those 330 minutes will be at your expense, but at a 25% reduced rate, which is something that they committed to because they're in our referral services, right? So this might be a good time to get some legal things put together that you've been thinking about, or maybe get some financial advice that you've been considering. So these are just some of your many benefits that you have through your employee assistance program, and any resource that you might need, no matter how far-fetched you might think it is, give us a call and give us a chance to help you find that resource. So we're here for you. 888-371-1125. I want to thank Dakota for hosting today, and Robert for helping with the technical stuff too. Thank you so much. And I'm wondering if there's any questions in the questions and answers part. So, and again, thank you for being here and investing in you. Any questions, Dakota, that you saw in the
Yes, sir. I'm here. Just want to say thanks for all this information. And real
Sure.
quick, everybody, if you do have any questions, please feel free to type them in the chat. I'll be monitoring that so I can get them over the doc. Over to the doc. But in the meantime, I think all this information so great, Doc, and I think that it covers a lot of things we don't even think about. I especially was thinking about how sometimes, like when we give news to somebody, we end up talking them off the ledge, so to speak.
Right.
Um, so I definitely appreciate kind of like that insight as well, because I feel like that is a layer to it that most people don't even consider. Like not only do I have to navigate this, but now I have to navigate the reactions around me as well.
Right.
So I definitely appreciate that insight
Sure.
as well.
Thank you.
And any questions, guys, please feel free to type them in. If not, I know it's Tuesday and it's the hottest
Yeah.
day of the week, so no worries if you don't have anything. But if you do have any questions or if anything does come to your mind, please feel free to reach out. You can reach us at wellness@transitchicago.com. Remember, this is being recorded, so we'll go ahead and get that over to you guys as well once it concludes in the next couple minutes here. And Doctor, any other closing thoughts or anything else you want to leave the team with today?
Sure. And Dakota, if I may, can I ask you to stop recording now? So in case
Yeah,
someone wants to type something, it might be helpful. People might think, might feel more
of course.
comfortable. Yeah,
Yeah, we'll go ahead and get that recording shut down right now.
sure.